how do you come in to properly educate clients, your team, properly educate clients, evaluate trends that are not just hype and not smoke and mirrors or things that are likely going to stay the course, and help the clients prioritize those for their own businesses? I'm curious around that. Broad question there, but.
So it's so important to be intellectually honest, right? It's very easy to read the news and say, I'm incredibly behind, or read the news and say, these are such amazing use cases. How is it possible that I can't deliver on these amazing use cases? When the reality is, especially when it comes to AI specifically, that there are in fact two races. They're the race to the edge use case that the technology companies are trying to get over, right? So each one of the hyperscalers, the OpenAIs, are saying, look at all these amazing things we can do, versus the enterprise race and the actual corporation saying, what are we actually ready to be able to implement, and what's actually possible within the constraints of my organization? Because those constraints are real. They're not real at OpenAI. They are real in your organization. You have a real team, you have a real budget, you have a real regulatory boundary, you have real contracts, you have an expectation to both earn revenue and be profitable. Those companies don't have any of those. So that means there's two different races. So this intellectual honesty is part of the AI education, right? So I'll spend, not only does myself and my team have to be well read on both sides of those equations, I've got to bring that intellectual honesty into the AI education. So when we do an AI workshop, which is mostly about readiness, is we say, here's the truth that's happening in the market, right? Here is the good news and the bad news. In fact, I replace that particular set of slides every single week with more good news and more bad news. And then I explicitly talk about why some of these things are good and why some of these things are bad, right? And what you have to think about because of where they are in the hype cycle, right? They're deep in the trough of disillusionment. They're not so far advanced and so far mature that you can just easily implement them. So that honesty is important, but then it's application in terms of the readiness. So I always break it down into 5 parts. And so part number 1 is, how much are you willing to spend on this? Is this $1 of investment, or is this $1 million of investment? Because that makes a pretty big difference on where you should be dealing your cards.
Sure.
The very next thing is, let's talk a little bit about governance. And I don't mean the big G governance, the small governance, right? Do you have a simple policy in place and what tools your team should be able to use? Or do you have a 3, 4, 5 person team to help make prioritization decisions? Like, these are the easier ones to consume from a governance perspective. And then finally, you've got your deck of cards, or you got your 52 cards. Of the $1 or $1 million you're willing to spend, is it more going to be on education? So how do I get over the hump of, let's say, prompting? Or is it more about building use cases? Because I think it'll be valuable either internally to my organization or part and parcel of my service or product I provide.